could discourage or disable American industries facing foreign competition that does not have to pay that charge. Cement being a very obvious example. If you're making concrete block, you use a lot of energy to do that, and so, or aluminum would be another example. So what do you do about that? What we have is a border tariff that is authorized by the bill. So if you're exporting to a country, just like a VAT works,
Right.
if you're exporting to a country that does not have a commensurate tax, you get paid back at the border, so your product can go out cheaper and compete. Contrarily, if Mexico is building the cement and sending it over the border, their product would be tariffed up so that it was a fair and level playing field. That's the only adjustment that we build into the bill. This is not a cap and trade type mechanism where you're trading carbon credits and doing all of that. My view is that the cap and trade mechanism got really dirtied up in the last fight, and that the fact that between then and now we have the Wall Street meltdown, and people are really disgusted with the way Wall Street conducted itself throughout that episode, means that trying to build a inevitably Wall Street managed trading system creates so many enemies and so much suspicion that it's not worth it. Let's just go straight to the fee, make it revenue neutral, which is what the Republicans insist on, and make it tariff adjustable to protect ourselves at the borders. After that, if ways to trade develop in a natural market-based way, great, I've got no objection to that, but we don't have to try to defend a Wall Street-run trading system to a population that has had it with those people.
Now, is there going to be the opposite, where you're saying companies such as cement or aluminum will be having that level playing field and they'll be paying that tax or rebate back on it? Hypothetically, let's say a company such as Steve's or George's or that don't start off putting carbon out there, but their initial program is to put carbon back into soil.
Yep.
Will there be a subsidy?
Not right away.
Not right away.
No. I think the first step is to get the carbon price out there. I think the rest then develops. Because you are, for instance, a importer of oil, and you're paying that fee when the oil comes in. You might very well say, you know what? We need to expand our business. Banked in fossil fuels is a bad bet. That's all eggs in one basket. Let's look into greener industries where we can put some of our capital to try to have a more diverse business portfolio. And by the way, if we go into one of these businesses that actually reduces carbon, let's try to negotiate with the people who are charging us to say, look, you should look at our business on a net basis and try to offset that. So I think it naturally emerges in very sensible market ways, but we don't have to impose it from the top by the federal government in this bill, looking like a big handout to Wall Street. It's going to be a big enough lift to get the carbon fee in place without putting on us who want it the added burden of having to excuse Wall Street's behavior and own responsibility for whether or not that trading mechanism turns into a racket or is actually transparent and effective or whatever. Let that actually develop on its own is my practical advice on that.
My name's Stephen Bench. I've developed a process to extract carbon from the atmosphere and produce ethanol.
Yeah, I read about that technology.
Yeah, but that technology overseas is pretty old hat. I can do it without using any BTUs. So I was wondering, would it be better to extract it out of the atmosphere or to start on a smaller scale and put units on companies that are putting their carbon out there in the first place and do it with them rather than pulling it out of the atmosphere, prevent it from going into the atmosphere?
Well, I think your first step is to prove the technology.
I've already got a unit.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of it.
So once the technology has credibility and people are supporting it and investing in it, then the future is yours, I think. And it's an easy step, I think, to move on to finding ways to offset where you are coming in and being paid by fossil fuel emitters to offset what they would be charged for. And ultimately, there may be a way to pay you directly for the carbon extracted.
Yeah, I'm pulling it for
But at the moment,
yeah.
we've got to, I believe, that I have to stay with the advantage of simplicity
Yes,
and get something simple and clear passed that does not have the Wall Street overlay.
yeah,
And then let nature take its course. Once you've baked a $50, $45 per ton carbon fee into the price of fossil fuels, that's going to cascade through the market in a whole bunch of useful ways that may on their own be helpful enough to you to accelerate your business proposition. And if not, then you've got a hell of a good argument that now, look, this is a better way to do it, and we need to find more effective ways to offset the harm that we're doing by reimbursing me for it.
okay,
So good luck.
I was the engineer that designed the plant in Australia, and they put out 18 million gallons a year of ethanol and 18 million gallons a year of carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
So I collect all that carbon dioxide over there, which is working fine, has done for 20 years.
Yeah.
And we condense that carbon dioxide and sell it off to Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can pull ethanol from that carbon dioxide or turn it into dibutyl ethane.
The other thing that's happening out there that happens in parallel with the carbon fee that I'm working on
Yep.
is that probably 50 major American corporations and I think all of the big oil companies have built in an internal cost of carbon that they use for showing their goodwill to their shareholders, for evaluating different competing projects as to where they should invest.
Yep.
And so if you're Mars, for instance, the Mars Corporation that makes M&Ms and Mars bars and all of that, they've dedicated themselves to becoming, as a company, carbon neutral in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing so by building solar and wind facilities in Texas to offset their energy use so that net, they're able to meet their targets. Those private corporations that have made these corporate pledges are going to be very interested in your technology because they can pay you to do what you are doing and thereby own the value that you provide of carbon reduction and help them meet their individual goals with the government not having to be involved at all. So there's this whole secondary market for carbon reduction that already exists because of these big corporations that have baked in an internal price on carbon and internal emissions goals that they have pledged to achieve, and you can help meet that. Bob, one last, and then I'm going to get
Thank
going.
you.
I know you have the bill ready, and it hasn't been introduced because you haven't.
It's been introduced in this Congress, we'll have to reintroduce it in the next
I mean,
Congress.
will it make a difference if the Senate becomes Democrat
Yes.
this time?
It'll make a huge difference.
Be able to get it out?
Huge, huge difference. The difference in the Senate, whether one party or the other has the majority, is the difference of being able to choose the topic. The Republicans hate this topic because they have a terrible position on it. The public hates their position on it. Most of them know they sound like idiots when they talk about it. And it's a very quick, direct line between them and the fossil fuel folks that fund the Republican Party, which isn't really a great thing to talk about in front of an electorate that's already very suspicious of special interest influence in Washington. So for a whole bunch of reasons, they never bring it up. The way you win is to bring something up and sit it out there and push on it to the point where you can get enough, not only Democrat votes, but also Republican votes to get over the 60-vote filibuster margin that I think will probably maintain for substantive legislation. So Mitch McConnell will never bring it up. You never get into the conversation to begin with. There's no real opportunity to put great pressure on them. Whereas if we sit on this for a while and go after the Republicans who want to help and put them under real pressure, I think something can be done. And that's where things like the Exxon CEO saying that he supports the price on carbon is helpful to us, even if it's not true. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.